The flight attendant's voice rose loud enough for everyone to hear. I'm going to ask you one last time, move to the back of the plane or I will call security. Her words carried a sharp edge, her tone dripping with condescension. Oprah Winfrey, calm as ever, looked up at her. I've already told you I'm not moving, she said clearly. Her voice was soft yet held an undeniable strength. She was being humiliated in front of everyone. But no one expected what would happen next when the woman they thought was powerless stood up and revealed who she really was. Gleaming under the afternoon sun, the private jet promised a luxurious journey for its passengers. Inside, the cabin was opulent, plush leather seats, gold accents, and an air of exclusivity that made everyone feel special. Passengers settled in comfortably as attentive flight attendants offered champagne. Soft music played in the background. Among them was Oprah Winfrey in her late 60s, exuding a quiet confidence and understated elegance in a tailored navy blazer and slacks. Though she looked like just another stylish passenger, this wasn't merely a trip. It was a journey to oversee parts of her vast media and philanthropic empire. No one else on board knew who she was yet, and for now, Oprah preferred it that way. Susan Reed, the lead flight attendant, stood near the entrance, her uniform impeccable, her demeanor radiating control. She valued appearances above all else, and her judgments were swift. Her welcome aboard to Oprah was noticeably cold. However, she turned with a warm smile to the elderly Raymond couple right behind Oprah, clearly frequent flyers. Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Raymond. Lovely to have you with us again. Oprah calmly noted the stark difference in Susan's tone. Her eyes registered the unspoken dynamic. As Susan moved through the cabin, she attended to the Raymonds, chatting politely. But as she passed Oprah's seat, she offered no such courtesy. She glanced briefly at Oprah's bag placed neatly under the seat, pressed her lips into a thin line, and walked by without a word. Oprah met this slight with quiet composure, saying nothing yet. A short while later, Susan approached Oprah, a forced smile on her face. Excuse me, ma'am, she said, her tone polite but condescending. I believe you're in the wrong section. Oprah calmly looked up. No, I'm quite sure this is my seat, she replied. Susan's smile didn't fade, but her voice hardened. I don't think so. This section is reserved for our elite passengers, you understand. A few nearby passengers began to listen in. A nosy socialite leaned slightly closer. Oprah remained calm. Wouldn't it be more appropriate to check your passenger list before making assumptions? Susan was becoming visibly irritated. I don't need to check anything, she snapped. I know who belongs here and who doesn't. Tension began to fill the cabin. Some passengers shifted uncomfortably. Susan crossed her arms. Look, if you don't move to the back of the plane right now, she said, her voice rising deliberately so others could hear, I will have to call security. Oprah tilted her head slightly, her calm expression unchanged. Call whoever you need to call, but I am not leaving this seat. Susan's face flushed. She turned to her junior colleague, Janice. Janice, escort this woman to the back now. Janice hesitated, glancing between Oprah and Susan. She wanted to suggest checking the list, but Susan's glare silenced her. Reluctantly, she stepped forward. Oprah addressed Susan, not Janice. I'd advise you to think carefully about what you're doing, she said softly, but with significant weight in her voice. Susan scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. I know exactly what I'm doing. Now get up. Susan angrily turned to her other duties, but the tension remained. Oprah patiently waited for a drink. Susan served Mr. and Mrs. Raymond first, then others, deliberately ignoring Oprah. When the tray was nearly empty, Oprah gently called out, Excuse me, may I have some water, please? Susan paused, glancing at Oprah dismissively. I'll get to you when I can, she said curtly, walking past. A few minutes later, Oprah shifted slightly to get more comfortable, stretching one leg slightly into the aisle, a perfectly normal movement. Susan, returning with an empty tray, saw this. Her sharp eyes noted the small adjustment. Instead of asking Oprah to move her leg, Susan deliberately altered her path and bumped her foot against Oprah's leg. The tray tilted, glasses tumbled, and water splashed onto Oprah's lap and the floor. Susan gasped theatrically. Oh my goodness! Watch where you're putting your legs. You've made a complete mess. Passengers turned at the commotion, Oprah looked up, startled but composed, brushing the water from her trousers. "But you intentionally walked into my leg," she stated clearly. Susan's face contorted with anger. "How dare you? First you're in the wrong seat, and now you're causing accidents." Oprah replied calmly, "I only asked to be treated with the same respect as everyone else. If that's too much to ask, then maybe you're the one who doesn't belong here." Those words were the final straw. Susan stepped closer, furious. "You think you can talk to me like that?" she hissed. And then, in a shocking moment, completely losing control, she raised her hand and slapped Oprah hard across the face. The sound echoed through the cabin. Everyone froze. Gasps rippled through the passengers. Janice covered her mouth in horror. Oprah slowly straightened up, not even touching her cheek. She looked at Susan, her expression still calm, but now incredibly serious. The silence in the cabin was absolute. The weight in Oprah's eyes made Susan hesitate for the first time. "You just," Oprah said, her voice quiet but cutting like ice, "made the biggest mistake of your life." Susan faltered for a second but recovered with bravado. "Oh, really? Am I supposed to regret it?" "What are you going to do?" she sneered, though her voice trembled slightly. Meanwhile, unnoticed, Janice had discreetly pulled out her phone and made a quick call. "It's Janice," she whispered urgently. "We have a serious situation on board. You need to inform management immediately." As Susan was still fuming, the cockpit door opened, and the pilot emerged looking concerned. He walked quickly toward Susan. "Susan, you need to step aside right now," he said firmly. Susan frowned. "What's going on?" "I'm handling this situation." The pilot took a deep breath. "I just received an urgent call from management," he said, then gestured towards Oprah. "They informed me that the owner of the aircraft, Ms. Winfrey, is on board, and that she is right here." A wave of shock went through the cabin. Murmurs and gasps erupted. The nosy socialite stared wide-eyed at Oprah. "She owns the plane?" she whispered in disbelief. The businessman who had supported Oprah nodded knowingly, as if confirming a suspicion. Janice looked relieved. Susan's face went pale, then flushed crimson. That can't be true. There must be some mistake," she stammered, her voice losing all its earlier sharpness. Just then, the pilot's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we will be making an unscheduled landing shortly. Please remain seated and fasten your seatbelts." Another wave of confusion spread among the passengers. The plane landed smoothly. Within moments, a sleek black SUV pulled up directly beside the aircraft. Two sharply dressed, serious-looking assistants quickly boarded the plane. Susan froze. The assistants walked directly to Oprah. "Ms. Winfrey," one said respectfully, "everything is ready for your review." Susan's lips trembled. "Ms. Winfrey?" she whispered. The assistants completely ignored her. Oprah slowly, gracefully stood up. She adjusted her blazer, her calm demeanor radiating unmistakable power. All passengers watched in silence. Oprah turned to the cabin. "I am Oprah Winfrey," she announced, her voice clear and strong. "I am the owner of this plane, and I am also the owner of this airline." Susan's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The confident, condescending flight attendant had vanished, replaced by a pale, panicking shadow. Oprah turned her attention fully to Susan. Her voice was calm, but sharp as a blade. "Susan, your behavior today was nothing short of disgraceful. You humiliated yourself, you mistreated a passenger, and you have tarnished the reputation of the company you represent." Susan stammered. "But I didn't know." Oprah raised a hand, silencing her. "You didn't know because you didn't bother to treat me with the basic respect every single passenger deserves. Instead, you acted on prejudice, you made assumptions, and you escalated a situation that could have been resolved with simple decency." Passengers murmured in agreement. Mr. Raymond nodded approvingly. Oprah continued, "Actions have consequences, Susan. And for someone in your position, this behavior is unacceptable." She turned to the pilot. "I want this addressed immediately, and I want protocols put in place to ensure this never happens again to anyone." The pilot nodded firmly. "Understood, Ms. Winfrey." At that moment, two uniformed police officers boarded the plane. Susan's face turned ashen. The officers approached Oprah. Ms. Winfrey, we received your report. Are you pressing charges? Oprah's gaze was steady. Yes, she stated firmly. This individual physically assaulted me in front of multiple witnesses. I expect her to be held accountable under the law. Susan cried out desperately. No, please, it was a misunderstanding. I didn't mean to. One officer produced handcuffs. Ma'am, you are under arrest for assault. You have the right to remain silent. Susan's breath hitched as the cuffs clicked shut behind her back. Tears streamed down her face. She looked pleadingly at Oprah. Please, Ms. Winfrey, I'm sorry. Oprah's expression remained firm. An apology means nothing without accountability. You made your choices. Passengers watched in silence as Susan was escorted off the plane, a picture of utter defeat and humiliation. Oprah turned back to the cabin. To everyone here, I sincerely apologize for what you had to witness today. This is not the standard of service or conduct I envision. There is absolutely no place for prejudice or disrespect in my companies. I assure you, steps will be taken to ensure every passenger receives the dignity and respect they deserve. The cabin erupted in applause. Oprah then addressed Janice, who looked on, still somewhat stunned but relieved. Janice, Oprah said softly, I noticed your professionalism and your integrity today. Thank you for having the courage to do the right thing when it mattered. You'll be hearing from my office regarding a promotion and further opportunities. Janice's eyes lit up with gratitude. Thank you, Ms. Winfrey. As Oprah disembarked with her assistants, the atmosphere on the plane had completely transformed. The incident quickly went viral. In a subsequent interview, Oprah stated, respect is a fundamental right, not a privilege earned by appearance or status. Everyone, regardless of who they are or where they come from, deserves to be treated with dignity. True wealth isn't measured by what you own, but by how you treat others. That's why we are implementing new training and policies across all my companies to ensure respect and kindness are the unwavering standard. Weeks later, on another flight, Oprah was met by a warm and respectful crew, understanding that the struggle that day hadn't been in vain. Looking out at the clouds, she reflected, the incident wasn't just about holding one person accountable, it was also about demonstrating the power of not staying silent. We all might encounter similar situations in our lives, perhaps not as dramatic, but we witness injustice, prejudice. What choice do we make in those moments? This story reminds us that, regardless of our position, our stance can make a difference. When we choose to speak up instead of staying silent, we light a spark of hope not just for ourselves, but for others too. What did this story make you think? What would you do if you were in a similar situation? How would you gather your courage? Share your experiences in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this inspiring story.